Commissioner Bennett? Commissioner Sixta?
Here.
Commissioner Zimmerman? Commissioner Wilson? Commissioner O'Neill?
Present.
Commissioner Reisinger? We have a quorum.
Thank you. If you can all join me to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. We're going to jump right in today. Item 1 is approval of minutes. This is approval of our regular meeting minutes of May 28th, 2024.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you. Item 2 is consideration of public comments. Lisa, do we have anyone that wants to comment today? Or
No public comments.
Thank you. Item 3 is old business. Commissioner Zimmerman, I'll read the item, but we're going to talk about this. Commissioner Zimmerman, ASU graduate project. Commissioner Zimmerman will give an update on the current status of the ASU project, graduate project, discussion and possible action. Do you have a presentation? Yes. Probably, yes. Thank you.
So this is already shared, Lisa? Oh, okay. Okay, just a reminder of the timeline. We're in the middle of a detailed scope definition, and we are looking at October to finalize that definition. So there's some work to be done still here. The last discussion, the meeting, the deciding factor was going with some kind of project that would introduce us to how ASU does their work. And that was art in public places. So from this point, we can discuss that and make sure that the commissioners here agree. And then we need to look for council approval for the expenditure of the expected maximum of $5,000. And then assign a project manager for the city to review the project.
I do believe that is already included in the budget for this fiscal year. So it's not subject to council approval.
Oh, so it's already
Correct.
approved essentially?
Yes.
Oh, excellent. Any discussion, questions about the project, working with ASU?
I have a question. What are we doing? We're trying to see how ASU works with us, and we work with them on, so we're creating a project.
Both, because this is the ASU Department of Urban Planning, their graduate department.
Excuse me, Deborah, will you speak again? Will you say that again into the microphone?
I don't remember where. Just to be clear on what we're doing for myself, is we are creating a project to work on ASU with the city of Kingman and this commission in order to establish a relationship for future.
I think this is already an existing project. We're just funneling it over. So ASU offers, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but ASU offers, like, through their program, the ability to, they have the ability to compile data and doing studies at an extremely discounted rate because there are students that are doing them. And this was one, we considered several projects. We considered some larger projects, but in wanting to gauge how that relationship works and what can be accomplished. This was a project we talked about with Mr. Noble. The Art in Public Places is putting into place a kind of a written policy and guideline about the different items that are going into the downtown area and across the city, in order to have like a clearer roadmap to utilize with council for them to understand kind of the overall purpose and how we're using that in tourism. Is that an okay?
Right, this is basically something to help us develop policies, procedures for art in public places programs, how we
Okay.
might identify sites and, the context, content, and something that would be enveloped into our economic development strategic plan down the road.
Okay.
Every graduate student has to do a capstone project, and they have done a variety of different ones over the years that have had very good economic benefits to the cities that they've worked with.
That makes
This is
sense.
the first time they're working outside of the Valley of the Sun, which is why there's some expenses involved, mostly just transportation and for the time they spend up here interviewing the public and commissioners and council and whoever else.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
And it's, as we've said, very discounted. And these are basically their final project for graduating and becoming urban planners. So we're getting the benefit of their knowledge and latest practices as well.
So are we, going to utilize the Discovery Theater as well down there where they do the urban planning and layers? And is that going to be offered to us as well? Because that seems like a important component.
If that's within the scope that's determined, we have another couple months to determine the final scope.
Okay.
But any input is greatly appreciated.
Have you seen that theater?
Personally, I've only been by it not when it has been in operation.
You've seen it? I've seen it. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's beautiful. And they actually, I think they have some data on us, so we might be able to capture that and go from the past to now and now to the future, kind of a thing. So, sure, I would love to help in any way, just call on me if you need any help or input. I'm in.
Okay, good, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I should add, I mean, when we talk about public places, this could be anywhere around Kingman. It could be the interchange of I-40 and how it's decorated, things like that, as well as other art projects that may come up.
Oh, that's really interesting.
But
Good
it all
for
depends
you.
on the scope that we establish
Okay.
by October, and that's why we need your input.
Okay, and so you're starting with the art and trying to formulate a plan, and was I supposed to know this before now?
We have talked about it a few times. This is the
I
first time
remember
we've come up
initially.
talked about like with the art in public places. So we'd considered some other projects regarding transportation and sprawl, but this seemed like the most tangible within a doable time frame project for some intentional planning.
Okay.
And over having worked with council this last year on several art projects to put together a cohesive vision, I think will be helpful because it'll be a document that'll come back to council, they'll approve, and then staff will be able to work from that.
We're also planning on developing some relationships here for the future because every class comes through and has to do a project.
Okay,
So why not benefit from their experience as well?
why not? Sounds good. Thank you for doing that.
Okay. Any more? Anyone from the ether?
Anyone what?
Okay.
Does anybody want to make a motion on this as far as like to show some agreement on like, yes, we like this project and let's move forward with it and continue to pursue it with ASU, or no, I hate it, so scrap it all?
I'll make a motion to move forward on a relationship with ASU and what that entails. So motion on the floor. Thank you.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Josh, does that provide enough direction? Perhaps we could jump out of order here with regards to Ms. Moline's time. Would you like to move forward in the running so that you don't have to sit through the next hour? Okay, not a problem. I just wanted to make sure. So
Yeah.
we can be a little long-winded sometimes. Okay, let's go ahead and move to item 4, new business. A, discussion regarding meeting day, time, and frequency. Josh Noble to explain that at the June 11th, 2024 City Council work session, the council requested that the staff bring back an agenda item to their next commission meetings for the commissioners' consideration, the option to adjust their meeting day, time, and frequency if necessary. At this time, the Economic Development Advisory Commission meets quarterly on the 4th Tuesday of February, May, August, and November at 12 noon. If changing your day, time, or frequency is desired, please provide your top 3 choices in ranking order for consideration. Some discussion and possible action. Mr. Noble, would you like to?
Just to give a little bit more feedback, so council does have on October 15th an item for Mr. Cooper to give a presentation on boards and commissions and schedule changes. So I think we're looking more for recommendations or what this commission would like to see, and then we'll bring that back and let Carl add that into his assessment that he gives to council in October.
Thank you for that. Pardon me, I had some comments from Commissioner Reisinger because she's not able to be here today. So I'm going to pull up those comments, but if anybody would like to comment currently.
I'll comment. I believe this commission should meet monthly, once a month. And I know it's a lot for staff to prepare their reports. And it's a lot of work for them, but possibly, I really believe that the commission needs to meet every month like every other commission does. I think it should be. I was not happy when they put it first every other month and then they made it every 3rd month because we get too far away from the issues, or at least I do, speaking for myself. I get so far away from the issues, life is so busy that all of a sudden I have this meeting and I'm not even sure what we're doing. I mean, I'm giving all the education and all the information. It's up to me to take care of it. I take that responsibility seriously. And I really think we need to meet monthly, like everybody else. When this commission did meet monthly, we did great. I thought, I mean, I was on it for several years, 6 years at the beginning, and then a 4-year gap, and then back on. And I don't know, it kind of drags it out for me. And I'm not the only one on the commission, and this is my opinion. But I think we need to meet every month. And as far as staff and the reports that they file, those are super important, and they need to be included. But they do those reports anyway for council, correct? Am I correct?
So we've streamlined the reports we bring into the commission.
Okay,
it used
good.
to be an overall report over everything we've been doing, but that dragged the meetings on, and we've adjusted that to just really doing updates on key matters.
There you go. So things are just happening like this, you know, in Kingman and everywhere else. And I just think in order to be on top of it, to address it, to become a part of it, and vote on it, it needs to be monthly. That's my opinion.
Thank you. Commissioner Bennett, do you have an opinion you'd like to share?
Yeah, initially I thought that more frequently would be a good idea. I had a city councilman tell me that was a bad idea. I think again it was because of the amount of time it takes on staff. Maybe we could ease into it and go back to every other month rather than monthly. It's an improvement over quarterly. But it would be nice to be not have to reintroduce ourselves every 90 days, so.
Thank you. Commissioner Zimmerman?
Well, obviously quarterly is just way too long. Bi-monthly is moving back in the other direction. I'm not opposed to a monthly, but I would like to know staff's feeling and how they feel they can adjust to the bi-monthly first before we consider going to monthly.
The years that I was on this board and we met monthly, they were fine, but we could ask them, of course. But they did well. It wasn't a problem that I could see, but I'm not staff.
Well, but in the last few years, activity in Kingman has definitely increased
And it's going to blow up even more.
already, yes.
Yeah, so I think we need to be on top of it. I mean, if this commission is a real commission that does real stuff for the city of Kingman, then we need to have our hand on the pulse of Kingman. We need to be involved in these things. And quarterly, it's never been my favorite.
Thank you, both. Commissioner O'Neill, do you have a voice that you want to add to this?
She's also muted.
Okay, Tasha, if you do have an opinion, you can feel free to jump in. I'm going to read the comments I got from Commissioner Reisinger. She said, without hearing the discussions, it's hard to make any statements. She's excited about the forward momentum we see and seem to be having with the growth and development. She asked that mid to late afternoon or Tuesday evenings would work best for her, but there's a lot of people to work around. The lunchtime would be okay if the meetings were shorter, like an hour or so, but the 2 to 3 hour meetings are hard at that time for a working person, which I can agree with.
Well, a greater frequency should lessen the amount of time spent on any individual meeting, I would hope.
Yeah, and that's the point, instead of having all of the data and information kind of balled up into, one meeting, then we could do it in chunks as it came up.
Would you
Hi,
like
Tina.
to come on up?
Absolutely.
For just a second. One of the options, I mean, it definitely sounds like you want to meet more frequently, but there's always the option to go to bi-monthly and call a special meeting
Okay.
monthly in the event that there is something that's going on that you want to hear about or that staff needs to report on. So there's always that option too that we can include.
Yeah,
I
that's-
just wanted to throw that out there for your
Yeah,
consideration.
we have called a special meeting
Okay,
before.
That is a
but yes.
good point.
Um,
Thank you.
Are we allowed to ask the staff's opinion?
I'm not sure exactly what all of the discussion has been with Carl. I know that they also have to look at the resources with this room and when it's available, how often it's available. So there's more to consider than just, staff and everyone's schedules. And that's probably why they asked for a first, second, and third, preference. So you can come back and then they have a couple different options to choose from. Is this one not working, Lisa?
Can I ask a question? How often does planning and zoning meet?
Well,
Well,
I'm pretty
Tina,
sure
if you
they're
know that, I'll
monthly.
let you.
So the only two commissions that meet monthly are Planning and Zoning and the Municipal Utilities Commissions. The rest of the commissions meet either quarterly or I think maybe even every other month. There's a couple of them that are that way.
I am always in favor of working together, so if it would be that we met every other month with the option of a special meeting, I would vote for that, absolutely.
Well, I believe Airport and Industrial just went to, or decided they'd go to a bi-monthly. And I think Parks was also mentioned. Oh, they're still quarterly? Oh, okay.
Was it historic preservation, Mr. Noble, that was going to bi-monthly?
Their preference is to go to bi-monthly,
Okay.
correct?
And listening to the opinions here, it seems like we wouldn't mind a monthly meeting, but we would be open to a bi-monthly meeting, kind of matching up with some of the other commissions. Can So if we were to rank 1, 2, 3, we'd say a bi-monthly meeting, a monthly meeting, and quarterly if we had to. Is that? Okay. Fair enough. We'll give you option 1 and 2, and then could we have a discussion about daytime and how that works out for the folks here on the commission?
In my position, I'm self-employed, so as long as I have notice, I can get there. It doesn't matter when you guys, whenever the room's available, because I know this room is used a lot for a lot of different things, and I get it. So however it worked out, I'm willing. I just need notice.
Okay. Commissioner Bennett?
I'm sure I can be heard. Noon Tuesdays, that's fine.
Commissioner Zimmerman?
I'm happy with this time, but I can move to other things if it makes it
We
easier.
could make it a happy hour somewhere. Yeah, because it's, yeah.
And then the note that I got from Wendy was mid to or late afternoon, or Tuesday evenings, unless we can keep it down to an hour, then lunchtime is better.
Tuesday
fine.
Tuesday evenings is council.
Yes.
Mhm.
There are a lot of things going on Tuesday
Yeah.
evenings.
And especially at night, they have the workshops and whatever everybody wants, I will show up, but I don't know about everybody else.
And I've just got a note from Commissioner O'Neill that she says she is flexible. So it sounds like we'd prefer to keep it at
Bi-monthly?
bi-monthly on Tuesdays at noon, unless we need to flex around that, and it sounds okay. I did not. I'm chairing,
She
but if
was
somebody
stating it.
wants
I'll
to make a
move-
motion,
I'll move for that.
as the first option would be Tuesday at noon on Bi-monthly.
Every other month. Yes.
Yes.
and as our second option, would there be flexibility for like Tuesday afternoon?
There is with me. I'm
Why do we
good.
need a second option?
They asked us to
They
come up
asked
with
for it.
3
Why-
options.
Why give them one?
Well, I think that's just because
Come
they
on up.
they
Go
want to
ahead,
have
Tina.
some options.
Come on up, Tina.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Commissioners, so the reason is just in case some of the other commissions are also now wanting to ask to come to maybe bi-monthly, 4th Tuesday of every month as well, then we've got some options from all of the commissions to consider. No. It's not that you're third in line, but we want to bring the choices to the councils so that they can make their final decisions. That's all, so that they have the options in front of them.
They can see which of us they want to hear from.
Hopefully, there's not going to be conflicting schedules. I'm hoping nobody else wants bi-monthly on the 4th Tuesday, so.
Maybe you could look at a different Tuesday of the month and otherwise
Oh,
ceteris
sure.
paribus.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it could be a different Tuesday. Yeah.
Like the second Tuesday.
So the first option's bi-monthly Tuesdays at noon on the 4th Tuesday. The second option be bi-monthly noon on the 3rd Tuesday.
Probably
You
not
get where we're at
the first
here.
and the second are council Tuesday, so if you maybe, or the first and the
First
third.
and the
so maybe
third.
if you check the
So
second,
it'd be
it would
the
be.
second, yeah. Cool.
Okay.
So can I amend the motion?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, to add the second option of a meeting on the second Tuesday of the month, bi-monthly, 12 o'clock.
Did you catch all that, Lisa? And can I have a second for that? Is that
second.
you? All right, and all in favor?
Aye. Opposed?
Thank you. Well, I didn't hear any opposed. So.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for working with me on that. Item B is Economic Development Project Manager Sylvia Schaefer. Per request from the May 28th, 2024 Commission meeting, information will be provided by Sylvia Schaefer on the North Stockton Hill Road infill. This is information only.
Good afternoon. So I actually had prepared myself for overall infill, and then I was like, oh, we're talking about this North Stockton Hill. So I would provide you information on what's been done basically since about 2019 or so regarding North Stockton Hill, and I'm kind of assuming that we're talking about some of the vacant commercial suites and some of the shopping plazas, if I'm not mistaken. But overall, I've been working overtime with a lot of the commercial property owners and now retail coach as well. We have Caleb that we partner very well together, and we interact a lot with the various commercial plaza owners, property owners, almost weekly. So there's consistent communication with what suites are becoming open, who discussions are happening with. We're very well aware of every parcel and suite that's open at this time. We've also created an interactive commercial, vacant commercial property map that is online as well for developers to see, and we can refer to them. But really, there's many times, like I would say Old Safeway, when we knew Hastings went out years ago, it took time. It took time, and it didn't mean that there was not a lot of negotiations happening in the background or conversations happening, but it took time to fill the suites, and now we have a Marshalls coming as well. And that's similarly with some of the other plazas. There's plaza conversations going on that it's not ready to be public yet, and the same with some of the lands that we see vacant along North Stockton Hill. There's things happening behind the scenes that aren't out in the public yet. So there's definitely a lot going on. We do get a lot of the marketing materials as well from the various real estate brokers to take with us to ICSC and present to Retail Coach so they can present to their clients as well as they're networking with all the prospective retailers in the area. So that's generally what has been done over the past few years, and I'm probably forgetting something, but if you have any questions, please ask.
Can we ask questions at least?
Absolutely. Commissioner Zimmerman.
Yes.
You said there was an online listing that's available to the public or developers or something. Is that on choosekingman.com?
I'd have to check. Lisa, do you recall if we tied in the interactive map to Choose Kingman where it had vacant commercial properties and land? I think we did. If not, we will make sure that it's done.
Check and make sure, because
Yes,
that seems
just
like a
double
logical
check.
place for it.
Yes, I agree.
I got a question, being a commercial broker.
Yes.
So what you're saying is that on your website, we can put our commercial listings?
No. Okay. So there's two different things going. We do have available properties listing in choosekingman.com. I always want to say gov. That can be searched, for current, and they're mostly the MLS, I believe, listings, commercial properties that people can search. But there's also a map we created showing what kind of, vacant commercial properties are still vacant so that we can show developers that these lands are still vacant along Stockton Hill or Kingman in general.
The reason I'm asking is because I never heard of that before.
Oh, yeah,
and I have
show
commercial
you.
listings on Stockton Hill that,
Yeah,
so
I'll-
I contact you.
I'll be happy to show you where it's at.
What I found with the strip malls is most of them were asking too much money. The guy in Old Safeway was very, very difficult to work with, and he was way up there, like $385 a square last time I checked. So that's why it didn't rent, I think,
There are definitely other factors in place
Yes.
besides us leading the retailer to the center.
Yeah.
The negotiations that occur with the property owners, or maybe they're looking for a certain location or loading docks, or, there's other things that come into play as to why they may or may not land. But we are doing all we can to aim those retailers to these centers. Yes. Great. Okay. So confirmed. And, we can send an email to commission just kind of showing you where these things are at for your reference as well.
Okay. Are there other questions? I believe you requested this, Commissioner Sixta. Is that correct?
I requested what?
Them to give it an update on the infill on North Stockton Hill.
Oh, I don't think it was me.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Did that suffice or answer what you were looking for?
Yeah, that it's on Choose Kingman. That's, like I said, it's a logical place to see it for anybody.
Okay.
Yep. And yes, so in the future, if you're ever interested in just the general topic of infill that we do for the city of Kingman regarding the infill incentive district we have or other portions, then I could come back and discuss that further.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving to item C, economic development project, nope, sorry. Item C on 4 is election of chair and vice chair. The Economic Development Advisory Commission needs to elect a chair and vice chair for the commission. Discussion and possible action.
Can we keep the ones we have? Does it have to be new ones?
You do have to, you can keep the current ones that you have, but you do need to nominate and vote on a chair and a vice chair to
Do you
take
want
over
it?
in December.
I don't mind sharing, but if somebody else would like the opportunity, I
You, Chairman? I vote
Nominate for,
how do I say it?
nominate.
I
nominate for
nominate,
chair.
I nominate Brittany Gish for chair and Tasha for vice chair.
I accept the nomination for chair. I do believe Wendy also said that she would be willing to to serve as vice chair, if so moved. But
Have we heard from Tasha about,
Tasha's a business owner downtown, but I don't know. I guess,
she is not on.
well, whoever wants to do it, I guess should do it. Not me.
I'd be happy to nominate Wendy Reisinger for vice chair.
There you go.
Does Lisa, does that count as an acceptance if she had texted me prior to tell me that she would be willing to sit the chair, vice chair, or how does that work? Okay. So pick from someone that's here. That's what you're saying.
Mm.
All right. There's only 3 of you.
I've already done it.
John?
Yeah, a little history. I just received a letter about signing up again for another 2 years. Is that normal?
Yes.
Okay, well, how does that affect you and the other people we're talking about? Let me ask it a different way. Are we all on the same time frame, or are we staggered?
We are staggered by when you
Okay.
join the
Yeah,
commission.
Mine said December of '24 were they looking for a renewal? Shouldn't we check with these others? Are they about to go off the board, or do we know?
I know that I am up in 2020, the end of 2025, but I have 1 renewal.
I don't know when I'm done.
I don't recall offhand.
Oh, because they voted me in again and again,
Mhm.
you know.
I know you're on your last, like, before you term out, but I don't remember what year, but it would be the end of the year.
Yeah.
This
it's
this
this
trimming
summer.
out, is this the old city manager?
What is this, 3 years ago, they put in some new board and commission regulations. That's when we went to the 3, like, the quarterly meetings, and
So
They
it could
did
be,
a
so it could be
restructuring.
changed, it could be revisited
It
then.
can be
it
changed.
can, yep.
Just a note, Deborah Sixta's term ends December,
This December?
this December, yes.
Okay.
Deborah, you need to find somebody else to be on the commission. You're tasked.
You don't have a renewal coming?
Huh?
Do you have a renewal coming?
I don't know.
She does not. I know you're on your
This is it, huh?
set. So it's you have
Glad
to
we're
be
going-
off for a period, and then you can be on the same or a different. I'm looking at you, Lisa, because you know the rules.
Yeah.
Right. No, I certainly try. So Deborah's been on the commission for 4 years, I believe, and so she is not at this point up for another renewal. That could change with city council's, the meeting when Carl Cooper goes in front of city council. That could change. But as of right now, Deborah Six is termed out at the end of December, so we would want someone like Mr. Zimmerman or Mr. Bennett, who are here, to be co-chair.
I'd be happy to nominate John for co-chair.
No, this isn't where I was headed.
You see how quickly he jumped on that.
Sure.
I need
Did you
to-
want to conclude your
No,
topic? though?
that's enough. Yeah.
Okay.
Do,
I-
do we need a new nomination for chair since the
Well, I think we
previous
ought to
one
start
had chair
everything
and vice.
over again.
Start it all over.
Yeah.
I nominate Brittany Gish for chair and John Bennett for vice chair.
All those in favor?
We need a second.
Oh, sorry. We need a
I
second.
think we need a second.
Do we
Together.
need a second for that?
Sorry,
Second.
we split them before, so.
I made the
And all those in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? Any that didn't vote?
Just John.
You were always here, weren't you, Brittany? You're always here, though, weren't you?
I am here on a regular basis, yes. We'd hate to make you talk this much. Okay, item D is request for future agenda items, request for future commission agenda items, discussion and possible action.
So this really is the time if you want to have something put on a future agenda for us to discuss that, and that way staff has good direction for putting that agenda item together.
Okay. We also have at the end of reports in item 7 that this reoccurs. But is there anything that anyone is currently wanting to know from staff?
Nope.
I think you guys do a good job bringing forward the
Yeah,
items that
that'd
are
be great.
pertinent and relevant. All right, let's go to item 5, reports. A is going to be Tina Moline, Deputy City Manager, Finance Services Director, Deputy City Manager, Financial Services Director Tina Moline will provide background history and current balance of the City of Kingman's Tourism Powerhouse Fund. This is informational only. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chairwoman and Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon. Bennett had asked me to share with you some background information on the bed tax monies, how much we collect, what the rates are. So I thought it was a great opportunity to share that with you as well. So that's what I'm going to be here to do today. So what is a bed tax? You probably already know what a bed tax is, but it is a transient occupancy tax, and it is charged on any person who obtains a lodging space on a daily, weekly, or any other type of basis for less than 30 consecutive days. So if it's 30 or more, it becomes more of housing, and we charge a different type of tax on that. So for bed tax, it's got to be less than 30 consecutive days. What are some examples? So of course, our hotels and our motels, and probably in the last, 10 years or so, vacation rentals have become also one of those choices. And so they do actually pay that bed tax, that additional bed tax as well. Certainly for any of the online lodging marketplaces like an Airbnb or a VRBO, they definitely are compliant with these rules. Sometimes maybe our individual homeowners that are listing them themselves may not be aware of this tax, and so there may be some non-compliance, but for the most part, most of those vacation rentals are on those online lodging marketplaces, so we are collecting those additional taxes. So what is the bed tax rate, and where do those monies go? Well, we have 3 different rates that we charge on our for bed tax. We have what I refer to always as our base or our standard rate. It is the rate that we charge on just about every taxable activity in the city. It's 2.5%. And we collect about $1 million with that 2.5%. It all goes into the general fund to pay for public safety. So police, fire, parks, people in finance, people in economic development, some of those general government services. But then we also have a couple of additional rates that we charge on all of the people who use our hotels and motels. A 2% rate that was adopted back in 1986 by the council, and that is solely dedicated to tourism development. And we're expected to generate, I put on here about $850,000, but as we have finalized the numbers in the last couple of weeks, it's actually going to be over $900,000 that'll go just to tourism development this year. And then back in 2009, the council decided that they wanted to impose an additional 2% tax that would go solely for capital projects. So street capital projects, public safety capital projects. It does not go towards our water or wastewater or solid waste projects. It's all for those general government projects, and it generates the same amount. It'll be over $900,000 this year. Now, I do want to touch on how the tax for tourism was specifically brought to play. So back in 1986, there was an ordinance that council adopted. It said it could only be used on tourism development and some economic development items. Well, fast forward a few years, there was a statute that became effective and said that really it can only be spent on tourism-related facilities, activities, the promotions of tourism. And so that's where those monies go to today. So just wanted to clarify that we have a couple of dictating rules and regulations that ensure that those monies get used there. How have we used those monies in the past? Well, in the past, we actually had the Powerhouse visit. The Powerhouse building was actually run by the Kingman Visitor Center years ago, so I think until about 2017. And we spent about $200,000 we gave to that organization to help Josh and the Powerhouse run that facility. But the Tourism Development Commission, back in the day when it was its own separate commission, the council gave them the authority to kind of use some of the monies to their discretion, and they would fund things like different events and activities that would come to town. And I listed a couple here. There was the Best of the West that we still actually use tourism monies to fund today, but we had a bluegrass festival, we've had tennis clubs, we've had, I believe the CRADA came in one year and did a bike race that the Tourism Development Commission gave monies to. So we've used it for those sorts of things as well. We also use it to improve the Powerhouse. That is our primary tourism building, and so we use the monies towards those things as well. And so that's where the monies have been spent in the past. And not a lot has changed today either. We still use them for the Powerhouse and to fund Josh and his team and all of the things related to tourism. So those are how we spend the tourism-related monies today. Are there any questions on the uses of those monies, how we used to fund things versus how we do it today, or the collections? Yes.
So I remember when, before when I was on this commission, then the people of Kingman, like the triathlon with the Anna Shuffler and the other, they had a ride out. They would come to us and they would bring us, fire safety, how they were going to do it, how the public, all of the things, and they would present it to us, and then we would decide if that was effective and that was something we wanted to do. We don't do that anymore.
You're correct. The Tourism Development Commission was dissolved, and therefore that authority went away. So instead, when we assumed the operations of the Powerhouse and basically the visitor center, we gave that authority to Josh and his team, and they do support and sponsor all sorts of different events. So it goes through the city staff now and city council.
So do you have community events happen and they come to you and ask for funding and direction and how do we do this, and then we do it? Or does the city just decide this is what we're going to do?
So we look at our strategic plan and what sort of activities that it promotes bringing in, and events is a big part of that. So most recently, last month, we sponsored a bowling tournament that a coordinator from down in the valley came up and produced here in Kingman. We also have a dirt tracking promoter that we've promoted several events that have brought people in to stay in Kingman and then dirt track around. We also have supported the all-women's triathlon, the Monarch Triathlon that was a couple years ago, and that's still on the table if she brings that back. So there's several different events. The rodeos, we've done quite a bit with the rodeos, street drags, bringing them back on their feet as they've transitioned locations and coming back out of COVID. That was another thing is after the pandemic restrictions, trying to give support for event promoters, bringing those back has been a big focus of ours.
So if someone in the community wanted to do something, then instead of coming to the commission, they would go to you.
Correct.
Okay, and make a presentation, and there'll be a discussion, and then does any aspect of that come to this commission for a decision, or, gee, that sounds like a great idea, so nothing?
The city, all these events and functions, the city council rules on all of these?
No, we have a line item in our budget called tourism initiatives,
I understand
and
that.
that's what
happened
those
to
are
the
funded out
Muffler
of.
Man?
And council approves that line item.
Any,
Yeah, the council trashed that. How do they pick that one out and over others? They just didn't like it, or the Muffler Man?
Oh, so that was another thing that we brought up, because that wasn't an event or something that we have, has no precedence with being done in the past. That's something that we brought to council so council could weigh in on that project.
Should we redefine what comes to you?
I think that the Art and Public Places study that we're working with the ASU team is part of what we're working on to help make that. Council has basically let us know that they wanted to see a plan, something that's more concrete and something that would be continuous throughout the city, and that's where we're using that tool in order to put together something for Art and Public Places like the Muffler Man.
Ms. Moline, can I interject a little bit here?
absolutely.
Obviously, bed tax is near and dear to my heart as a hotelier. I just wanted to clarify in your presentation with the statute, the AR, what is that, 9500-06, that did allow the city governments to utilize up to 2% of that tax for non-tourism items. But if there were ever to be an increase in the bed tax, that would have to be tourism related. That before they didn't allow that, and then that did change. I don't remember the year, because I know I've been asked about that a few times. But also restaurant and bars do fall under that same purview. And that is why we have the 1% roads tax for restaurants and bars. That is part of the bed tax or hospitality tax.
Yeah, so you
Not
are
to step
correct.
on your-
No, you are correct. If we were to, if the council, well, it's now the voters, will have to make that decision. But if the council decided to take to the voters to increase any sort of bed tax or any sort of hospitality tax, it would have to be used towards the promotion of tourism. That is correct.
And that this is regulated by the Department of Revenue, that cities are required to use those monies within those, within the tourism category, so that there are consequences for not doing so. So generally, being very careful about how we go about spending those monies is part of the staff's regular job.
100%. Yeah, we certainly refer to our city attorney many times, anytime there's a question on how those tourism-related monies need to be spent. And it is not the Department of Revenue, actually, that oversees that. It would be the Attorney General or someone at the
Okay.
state to that respect.
I know the Department of Revenue takes complaints on it, so.
They do.
That is Attorney General.
It would go to the Attorney General, and we would receive a letter from them for any complaints that anyone has on the way that we are spending or not spending those monies in relation to statutes.
Another question.
Councilman Zimmerman.
Does any of the money from this 2% go to any line items for staff development, which, I mean, in my view, staff development has something to do with tourism improvement, but it's not events or things like that, although it may be going to events for the development. Can you speak to that?
So I can state that the budget for tourism is considered tourism development, tourism related. So everything pertaining to professional development, their salaries, anything to run the operation is considered tourism related and tourism development. So yes, those monies can be used for that.
Okay.
Thank you for that question.
So, we are EDAC. They are tourism. So what do we do? What do we do?
So I think we need to stay on the topic of the agenda, and that's
This is
something
part
we
of
can
the
always.
agenda. You're talking about tourism, right? And how it went from here to there. And I'm just wondering, we don't do anything with tourism anymore.
So I would suggest, Commissioner Sixta, to maybe when you get to item number 7, as a
okay.
future agenda item, to maybe bring something back on talking about what you do, how it relates to tourism, and
Yeah.
if there's some
That's a good
additional
point.
information that
Thank you
maybe
for
you want to
that.
talk on that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
I appreciate
So
it.
that's my suggestion. Okay, and I don't know what the purview of the commission is, but it might be a good idea just to have a conversation later about that. Are there any questions on the ordinance piece or the statute piece of the tourism monies, since I'm on that slide right now? Okay, I am almost done, and I want to talk about where the room tax revenue balance is currently. So we collect about $900,000 a year in bed tax money, but to Josh and his team, I have to give huge kudos to them because they generate about $500,000 a year just in the merchandise that they sell. I have to say, I came on board with the city about 10 years ago, and at that point, they were barely generating about $200,000 a year, and maybe just over that. And since then, you see, we're about $500,000. We're expecting more than that next year. So that, it just goes to show how hard that they work at generating, at not just using the bed tax money to pay for themselves, but also the merchandise sales. So I bring that up because we use those monies first to pay for their operation, and then anything additional that their operation costs will come from the bed tax monies. So this last year, this fiscal year 24, they cost about $1.3 million. Of that $1.3 million, they generated about $500,000 themselves. The difference came from the reserves that we have from the bed tax. So we track that every year and make sure that it's available for those one-time big purchases, one-time big sponsorship activities, or just the general functioning of the powerhouse. So at the end of fiscal year 25, you'll see at the very bottom of this table, on the far right-hand side, we expect to have about $700,000 left in just reserves from our bed tax monies that we've been collecting just for tourism. So hopefully that's helpful for you to be able to track
Okay, your 500,000, that's gross revenue, correct?
for them,
Okay,
correct?
so
Mhm.
there is a rather sizable profit from that.
There is, yeah, absolutely. I don't know what their profit ratio is at all.
It's about 55%
Okay.
is our
Mhm.
margin.
So,
Can I ask about the $220,000 capital project that is listed in the budget in contingency?
yep, so for the budget, we always keep a line item for contingency. It's for those one-time, uncertain uses. So that's budgeted. We almost never touch it, but it is what's in the budget. The capital items, I believe what's included in there, they have a vehicle. They've got some community art, so large art pieces that are budgeted this year. Those would be considered capital. I also believe we are doing the powerhouse roof. We are redoing the powerhouse roof. That's a pretty significant dollar amount we're contributing. I want to say close to $40,000 or $50,000 of that capital line item that would be considered for that as well. So there are a few items. I think we're doing some window upgrades, so some building improvements in that line item. Am I missing something else, Josh, at all?
Might be the conference room as well.
Maybe the conference room as well. I think that's a $70,000 project. So a few things to the building.
And the Trails Master Plan is not included in
Trails
here?
Master Plan is not included in here because
it's
this
not
is just the
capital.
powerhouse fund, right? So we're taking some of those monies, $100,000, and transferring it to our capital project fund, but it will come out of here.
So this isn't just simply tourism funding you're looking at? This is
Correct. This is
powerhouse.
just the powerhouse, the tourism operations. Yeah. So there's another $100,000 that it's the only other $100,000 that's not going to be out of the powerhouse fund itself. That happens very, very rarely. So this is pretty much what covers tourism. So
I have a question. Is the rental income from the space
Mhm.
At the powerhouse?
Mhm.
So 33,000 divided by 12. How much is that a month?
It is also, just so you're aware, Commissioner, it's also, we've got a satellite,
Cell phone. Cell phone tower.
Yeah, thank you, not satellite, a cell phone tower that we receive from SBA, and they also, they rent that space, and that goes directly to the
Very
powerhouse
cool.
too.
Very cool.
Mhm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Ms. Moline? Thank you very much for
Okay,
coming and giving a
hopefully that-
presentation.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much for the opportunity again.
Thank
Mhm.
you.
We're going to move to item B, which is Tourism Administrative Assistant Katie Barthrow. A report will be given on the AAA-sponsored Route 66 Festival in Tulsa, Oklahoma. This is informational. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. Excuse me while I share my screen here. Awesome. Okay, terrific. Thank you very much for having me. Good afternoon. I am here to present on the Route 66 Road Fest, which is presented by AAA. There we go. Okay, Route 66 Road Fest, presented by AAA. It's held in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I attended this event on June 22nd and 23rd. 10,000 people attended this event over the 2 days. So this event is a unique celebration of Route 66, featuring interactive and educational exhibits where guests can experience the history, sites, and people of Route 66 from the 1920s through today. These exhibits include fun facts, photos, photo ops, music, artifacts, and various characters from the past to share their stories. The Road Fest also had a classic car show with over 200 vehicles. They had family-friendly games and activities, presentations, panel discussions, musical performances, as well as a vintage camper show. So, Nikki Terleski, who is the Director of Operations for the Historic Route 66 Association of Arizona, and myself attended the event to represent Kingman and Arizona in general to spread awareness of our stretch of Route 66. We distributed hundreds of various paper material to event attendees. You can see these numbers on the slide. In addition to informational material, we distributed promotional items like stickers, magnets, keychains, enamel pins, and those squishy drive-through shields. I think all of you have some. Other than Oklahoma, Arizona is the only state along Route 66 with its own state passport. Guests were very excited to get their own Arizona passport, and anything that was left over was given to the Oklahoma Route 66 Association, as well as a representative from Seligman, both of whom were very happy to take the excess. And while we were there, we connected with various industry partners, including Mr. Jim Hinckley, who was also there to represent Kingman, the Kansas, Texas, California, and Oklahoma Route 66 associations we connected with there. Reese Martin, whom you can see in that bottom picture, he's in the black shirt. He is the president of the Oklahoma Association. He was incredibly welcoming and hospitable to Nikki and me during our stay in Oklahoma. He is also now on the National Trust for Historic Preservation as the manager of the Preserve Route 66 initiative. So he is a great resource whom Josh and Nikki work closely with regularly. So Arizona's presence, those in attendance representing Arizona included a gentleman by the name of Big Mike. He's from Seligman. That first picture was his booth. Huge hit, very big attraction for guests at the festival. Jim Hinckley, Nikki Terleski, and myself. So we had great representation from Arizona, from Mojave County. Forgive me, Seligman is in Yavapai County, but from northern Arizona. So, most of the guests who stop by our booth are familiar with Kingman and Arizona in general. With this being a Route 66 festival, majority of the event attendees are Route 66 enthusiasts. So the very common feedback was, I've been to Kingman before X amount of years ago. I love Arizona's stretch of Route 66. I've driven through Kingman on I-40, very common feedback I think everybody hears. Or I've never been to Kingman, but I really want to do the western stretch of Route 66. Above all else, I can tell you this, is that everyone, and I wholeheartedly mean everyone, who stopped by our booth is planning on doing the entirety of Route 66 in 2026 during the centennial year. So, with this feedback in mind, we are expecting a massive influx of tourists in 2026 at the Visitor Center, at the Kingman Visitor Center. So as we approach the Route 66 centennial, we are doing things to enhance the visitor's experience. This includes a dog park, plumbing improvements, the incoming leaning shield at Lewis Kingman Park, the art in public places, neon signs, and visitor center improvements. Things currently in the works at the Powerhouse are a kids area, a new sign wall, new photo ops, model railroad layout improvements, as well as Route 66 museum upgrades. So you can see on the screen here some, not an exhaustive list, of popular Route 66 events throughout the year. Across the country, you can see the 3 in red are held in Kingman. While we were in Tulsa, Reese Martin, again the president of the Oklahoma Association, gave us some insight on Oklahoma's centennial event plans. This includes festivities like a fiddle contest, a barn dance, and a Dust Bowl celebration of sorts, different themed events that are specific to their region. This inspired us to localize the 66 Fest in addition to community feedback we got last year. This year, we are leaning into artistic aspects of our event, featuring local artists to distinguish our festival from other Route 66 events and celebrations. You may remember this slide from a past presentation Josh Noble put on. Our goal is for 66 Fest to be one of the biggest Route 66 festivals by the centennial year, and we are already well on track for that, to meet that goal. 3 events in Kingman that the Office of Tourism is intimately involved in are already on the top 12 Route 66 events in the country based on geofenced cellular data. The Route 66 Road Fest in Tulsa is held at the SageNet Center at Expo Square, one of the largest clear span buildings in the world per Visit Tulsa, and is 2 stories. The iHeart 66 Fest is already on par with an event of that size in our very own Lewis Kingman Park. 10,000 people attended Road Fest this year, and 9,000 people attended 66 Fest last year. And we are anticipating 10,000 people to attend the 4th annual 66 Fest this year. So that's very exciting. Also, while we were at this event, we reconnected with Hiroshi Kono, who is the producer of this Japanese musical group called Bentenya. In the summer of 2023, this group came through Kingman while they were making a movie along Route 66 in the United States. We will be bringing Bentenya to the iHeart 66 Fest, where they will be performing, so that's really exciting. It's always fun to not only feature local talent and artists at our event, but to bring in a different culture to the festival. So along the way, while we were driving to Tulsa, Oklahoma, we made many stops, including standing on the corner in Winslow, Arizona, the Flagstaff Visitor Center to drop off Route 66 passports, Grants, New Mexico, and their drive-through shield. The inside of their drive-through shield is covered in stickers, and you can see that we left our mark on there. Albuquerque, New Mexico, Tucumcari, New Mexico to TP Curios, Amarillo, Texas, the Second Amendment Cowboy, as well as Cadillac Ranch, you can see at the top there. And within Oklahoma was Pop's Soda Ranch, Buck Adams, Meadow Gold Mac, the Mother Road Market, the Tulsa Visitor Center, the Big Blue Whale, the Round Barn. There are so many attractions along Route 66, and it was insightful to see all of these places from a visitor's perspective. These are the iconic Route 66 attractions that visitors, domestic and international alike, are planning to stop at in their itineraries. They are visiting these places very intentionally. This is what they want to see. So that is why it is so important to preserve and promote the authentic character of Route 66, which is the work that we do at the Kingman Office of Tourism. So, thank you very much for your time today. The I Heart 66 Fest is coming up on October 11th and 12th at Lewis Kingman Park, and I hope to see all of you there. Any questions for me while I'm up here? Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time today.
One question.
I appreciate the opportunity, yes.
We've got a lot of photo ops and such that go through. Is this inspiring you for more events that could lead to more heads in beds, more nights stay in Kingman, because there's more to do?
Yes, my answer to that would be yes. I think it's a goal always for the Office of Tourism to encourage people to stay the night here.
Okay, did you have a chance to make any other professional connections or develop some relationships with like tour operators or other?
Tour operators? No.
No, okay.
I do believe Nikki Terleski and I are going to Trex this year intentionally to connect with tour operators
Oh, excellent.
that are going, they have a section on the Route 66 Centennial
Yes.
to
and-
piggyback that into the topic.
Yeah,
Good.
absolutely. And I know Josh Noble always attends an annual conference or trade show of sorts to connect with tour operators very specifically.
Great.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Bartho.
Thank you very much.
We are going to move to item C, Economic Development Project Manager Terry Curtis. Update to be given related to grants awarded to economic development. This is informational only. Item A is the Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity, or the RAISE grant, because we're not reading that again. And the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the USDA Rural Business Development Grant. Ms. Curtis.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Gish and Commissioners. It's nice to be here. Thank you. We have been very fortunate to be the recipients of several different grants lately. The first one is the RAISE grant. We are not getting the money directly. That is going through the I-40 Trade Port Corridor, and Bernalillo County is the lead agency for that. But this is for planning and engineering of our truck mobility complex that will be here in Kingman and facilitate the I-40 Trade Port Corridor. The second grant that we got was the USDA Rural Business Development Grant. That was to pay for the feasibility study for an event center, which we have an RFP already out for that. September 16th is the last day to submit any of those RFPs to the city, and then we'll be opening those and awarding that project out, and then we'll start working on the RFP for the Economic Development Strategic Plan update, which we are hoping to encompass a few other things with, or if there are additional funds left over from the feasibility study doesn't cost as much, we can move those over to the Economic Development Strategic Plan. Also, if I might, the airport wanted me to provide one more update as far as the RFP for the airport has gone out, has been scored for the airfield development. We are now in the lease has come through, and we have gone through it.
Excuse me, Terry?
Yes?
If this isn't on the agenda, you
Okay.
can't speak about
I'm
it.
sorry.
That's okay.
Right.
Thank you. That's it. Any questions?
Since it's pertaining to grants, I did want to put out there, there is a grant available for the Parks Master Plan. We just learned about this through SCORP, and so I just wanted to encourage you to look into it, and if you want some more information on it, I'd be happy to. I think Mr. Noble also has some information on it.
And we've all been sharing a lot of those resources, so yes,
Perfect.
thank you. I would like that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Appreciate you going out and looking for money to pay for these things that we want to do.
I am on that grants.gov app probably once a week, once every 2 weeks, just looking for new grants. So we want to make sure that we get everything that we can here in Kingman, and we deserve it. You know, we're growing and we need the help because we're still rural. So
Say, without a property tax base, it's
Yep.
great to see that
Yep.
we're going out and finding that,
we're
those
working really
funds in
hard
order
at it.
to fund some of those other things to keep us growing.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move to item D, Tourism Services Manager Josh Nibble. Update of the AZ Governor's Conference of Tourism attended by the staff and commissioners. This is informational only.
Commissioners, Chairperson Gish, I've got some collateral I gathered at the governor's conference I'm going to bring over to you. This has the Discovering Arizona Fiscal Year 24 Annual Report, which you can read at your leisure. It's over the different projects, programming, marketing, branding initiatives that they've taken on over the course of last fiscal year. And it has the annual 2023 Arizona Tourism Industry Impact Study. And that's the loose leaf that's in there. So you could see that we had about 40.88 million domestic overnight visitors. That was a 1.73% increase over 2022. 29.3 billion in direct spending, about 4.5% over 2022. And so there's various different pieces. And then on the right-hand side, you have columns breaking it down by county. So you can see the local, state, and total taxes that were collected by county. The conference was held last week, August 21st through 23rd. They had various breakout sessions. I didn't actually make it to any of the breakout sessions this time because I was involved in a few different presentations at the conference. So the Route 66 Association of Arizona sponsored a Route 66 Centennial themed lunch, and they were kind enough to bring Kingman up to help present on the history of Route 66. And then they also had an eventonomics panel where we had members from Scottsdale, Havasu, and Kingman, which I was involved in to give updates, presentations, ideas on putting events on, how they can overcome obstacles in planning, all the different aspects. So that was pretty enriching to be involved in those panels, getting the questions and making new contacts. The State of Arizona also completed a Discovering Arizona branding, and this isn't just for the Office of Tourism. This is going to be used by all state departments, so it's something that you're probably going to be seeing implemented in other areas. This is the overall logo that they came up with, and it has a bold typeface. You can see the Z kind of expands out in as a mountain range, with the O having various different icons, and I'll get into a little bit more specifics on that in a moment. And it's like a rising sun. So this is that logo on its own, and it's very reminiscent of kind of a older era, retro era Arizona logo. This was our visitor information sign guiding people into the visitor center until we replaced it back in 2020, or actually 2017 initially. But I think that's a logo that was used throughout the 80s and 90s. And when we hosted one of the listening sessions in Kingman back in June, I saw him point up at our sign hanging. This is currently hanging over the brochures in our visitor center. So I think they got a little bit of inspiration from it and took that back into their meetings. But they had about 57 communities across Arizona that were represented in those listening sessions to gather feedback on what people felt the brand should be about, how they felt about Arizona, how they sensed the state, and what their favorite places to visit were. Kingman was, I think it was June the 5th. It was right before we had our grand opening on Beale Street that we hosted a listening session with the Office of Tourism. Vibrant Arizona, so that's kind of the tagline. And this is a kind of a up close to the symbols that are in that round symbol. This was working with a member of the Hopi tribe who was a graphic designer and took different elements from the discussions. And so you see that there's the hand print that represents all the peoples past and present. There's kind of that hooked mark, that's our water boundaries, that represents the rivers, and the clouds with the rain coming down, and the rainbows represent our monsoons. You'll see, I don't know if this will show right in here, this symbol here represents our tech sector. That's a chip, microchip. We have our saguaros, our fish, hummingbirds. Sierra Vista is the hummingbird capital of the world. There's a lot of great birding in Arizona. And then we have the largest ponderosa pine forest. So they really went into a lot of thought to develop this into something that would be an iconic symbol representing Arizona. So we had all of our tourism staff went to the conference. We also had 3 commissioners, O'Neill, Morgan, Wilson, and then Chairperson Guiche, although she came on the dime of her company. But it was great to have such a large Kingman contingency there, where we could really intermingle and get everything we could get out of the conference. I still haven't had a chance to catch up with my staff and team and see what their takeaways were, as we just came back, Friday. But we're all going to be getting together and going over the things that we learned about, marketing, promotions, trends, sustainable tourism, and bring that into our future goals. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Oh, this is a promotional video if you care to see that. It's about 3 minutes long. Or not. Maybe it won't go.
I'd say Kingman was actually really well represented in, is this the Vibrant Arizona video?
Yeah.
I just wanted to remark on, at the conference, Mr. Noble, you did a great job with Nikki. The presentation that you gave with the Route 66 with the history was extremely well received. I received a lot of great comments back on that. People that didn't know the history, and you made it fun and interactive. So really good representation for us as the city of Kingman.
Thank you. I always enjoy sharing the history of Route 66. So.
Yes.
Question. With the new Arizona State branding, what do you see as the cost and economic benefits that you can get to this or end up paying for?
So we're still waiting on getting all the assets. Ian, so it was more that presentation. I think it was on Friday morning. That's the first any of us had ever seen of the brand. So we still don't have all that background. But I will say it was pretty engaging. It was well received in the room. I've been at conferences where the branding was kind of fell flat. I think everyone was excited about seeing where this was coming from. We had a great presentation from the company that they worked with, the consultants, on how they came up with it, how they were working with the different people to identify what that brand was. It was an Arizona-based company, which was also great to see, because that really meant that they had invested interest in it. But I feel like this logo, a lot of times when you put logos on ads, it doesn't really mean anything. I've seen some states have logos that really do speak a little bit to their experience and what you're going to see there. I think this is going to be more eye-catching on our marketing, and we do have to include the Arizona Office of Tourism's logo on our marketing that's funded through the Rural Co-op.
Okay, so we get to use this on shirts, cups, everything.
Not on merchandise,
Not
but
on merchandise?
on marketing. I don't know if there will be a release for us to use their logos on merchandise. We have our own logos that we can use, but in our marketing.
Okay, but you can look into that and
We can look into
see
that.
if we can use
Certainly.
those, because it looks like a pretty good logo to use. Okay.
Mr. Bennett, did you have a comment?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move to item 6, announcements by commission members. I don't see anyone online. Sorry. Limited to announcements, availability, or attendance at conferences and seminars, requests for agenda items for future meetings, requests for reports from staff. No discussion of these items. Let's start with Mr. Zimmerman.
Okay, September 22nd, Sounds of Kingman. Always an interesting event. And as we get into the much better weather, should be well attended. Metcalf Park, September 22nd. And the other thing, and I don't know if this is acceptable, but the Moose Charity Golf Tournament, which normally supports the Kingman Food Bank, is going to be the 28th of September. I'd like
Excellent.
people to consider attending.
Perfect. Thank you. Chairman Sixta? I think you had a request for future something.
About our relationship or our involvement in tourism and economic development as a commission. What it is we do.
Mr. Noble,
to
did you need
clarify.
any defining parameters, or is that good for you?
I think, yeah, if you could give a little bit more detail on what you'd like to cover, and is that for discussion that you'd like to have, or are you
Yeah.
looking for information
Yeah,
to be brought?
I just feel that it's not clear, at least to me, what exactly we do besides listen to reports. I would like more activity on our behalf. I see what Commissioner Zimmerman is doing. Maybe I'm just talking about me and my involvement.
And we can absolutely discuss it with the
Yeah,
with regards to some of like the economic development
Yeah.
strategic plan. Yeah.
yeah, that'd be great, since I'm getting kicked out in December. It'd be nice to know before I leave.
Nice.
Well, what? You're confused
right.
also? You need to. turn
But
on your-
we can't discuss it, so we can make the request. And then, Mr. Bennett, would you you have any items that you'd like to add on to this
Well, I'm
announcement
curious, when does my term as vice chair start?
today,
When does it end?
1 year from now?
Is there any compensation?
Just the love of your of the staff of the economic development staff and the citizens of Kingman. Thank you.
I'm good, thank you.
I just want to remind everyone about the iHeart Route 66 Festival, because it may be a while before we're together again, and that is October 11th and 12th. Thanks for the head nods. Big, definitely an important event going on. The Andy Devine Rodeo is upcoming. The fair, which we need some assistance with. So we will be sending that out. But I have a schedule for that for economic development. And with the Andy Devine Days Rodeo, there's actually the Andy Devine Awards. This is the last week to get your nominations in for, I think we have 9 business categories, from most improved commercial property to educator of the year, student of the year. So think of those people that have made an impact on your life here in Kingman and nominate them. That will take place the Monday before rodeo. And I couldn't tell you the date offhand, but it is available on the Kingman Chamber website. That's all I have.
I'll just add one. I will add on October 19th at Locomotive Park, there is going to be what's called a tomato quest. So if people are interested in seeds, cultivation, it's put on by the Master Gardeners in Havasu, Bullhead, and here. They will all be there, and we've leased the park, and we would love for you to be there. And there might be some fun surprises.
That's a great ad. Thank you. Item 7 is a little redundant. Request for future agenda items or updates. I think we've covered that. Unless somebody makes eye contact with me here. We're good?
We're good.
Okay. Then we are adjourned.